we've come to it. The final disc. The final 6 episodes. Well, technically 4, because 2 are two-part episodes. But we are on the home stretch. And racing to the finish now. As we are about to complete the Seinfeld review series. Again, it's been a year. I did the first episode of this August 26th of last year. Had a few, times where I had to slow up on it because I had other things going on. But I've been so focused on getting this and my Harry Potter Let's Play done that I've been really moving through these past couple seasons pretty quick. So again, I've loved this series. I love this series. I've loved doing these review series. But yeah, I'm definitely ready to move on to something else. But we will finish strong. So, the last disc of season 9, I'm going to go about it a little differently. I'm going to review, usually I watch all the episodes, then I review each one. But this disc, because of the two-parters, and just the fact that there's a lot of, behind the scenes featurettes I want to tie in with the 2-part clip show and the 2-part finale. I'm going to watch each episode one by one on this disc and then review it after I watch that episode. It will just be a lot easier because I'm going to be taking some notes because there's the last lap featurette I want to incorporate in the clip show. I also want to incorporate my thoughts on the scenes from the roundtable special as well. And of course, the finale has a lot of deleted scenes and a lot of things to definitely remember to mention for sure when we get to that. But without being further said, let's roll in and just start the final stretch for these final 6 reviews of the Seinfeld review series. So starting off on disc, on the last disc, we have the Maid episode, which has a couple intriguing stories. A couple of stories I'm like, wait, did this one come sooner? But they all happen right here in this episode. And it's kind of the last episode where, not completely, but in some ways, we all have separate stories. Because, of course, the Puerto Rican Day Parade was kind of one, location. Then, of course, we had the clip show. And then the finale was everybody was basically stuck on the same story for the most part, with a couple of minor things on the side, but there was one main story. This is really the last episode that had 4 separate stories, pretty much. And I think it wasn't too bad. It wasn't one of my favorites, but it was decent. It was a decent episode. So it starts off with Jerry and George in a coffee shop at Monk's. I guess Jerry's talking about some rodeo he was just recently at or something like that. And George starts saying stuff about he feels he's lived up to the name George for too long. Which Jerry's like, okay, is this the depressing side of you talking or the nickname side of you talking? So, it's the nickname side. George wants to go with a new nickname for himself. And he thinks he should go with T-Bone. Which, of course, every time I say T-Bone, I just think of my delicious T-Bone steaks I get to eat here and there, mostly on Fridays and whatnot. So, of course, Jerry's like, T-Bone? What about G-Bone? There's no G-Bone. He wants T-Bone. So, he goes to his next meeting at Kruger's, and when they're ordering food, he tries to say something about getting a T-Bone steak, trying to imply he wants people to start calling him T-Bone. Well, somebody else beats him to the punch, pretty much, and they start getting called T-Bone instead, which, of course, drives George nuts. And he's telling everybody, no T-Bone. No T-Bone. But then, unfortunately, George gets another nickname. One that he doesn't want altogether. So he was having, a confrontation with this guy out in the hallway. And he's basically, telling him, probably some depressing story. You don't hear the whole thing, but how he really badly wants to be called T-Bone. But while he's out there, everybody else is watching from inside the meeting room. And the way George is flailing his arms around, I think he had a banana in his hand too, and whatnot. Everybody thinks he looks like a monkey. And they're like, what was the name of that one monkey from, I can't remember what it was. No, it's not Curious George. Actually, to think about it technically could have gone with Curious George because his name is George. But, they could have done that. But instead, George walks in and he says, I made a deal with whoever the guy's name was. Basically, how he's going to be T-Bone now. He goes, I have my new... He's about to tell him that he basically claimed T-Bone from this guy. But instead, Kruger says, no, your nickname is Coco. And everybody starts going, Coco, Coco, Coco. And George just absolutely hates it. How did he get out of it? We'll have to get back to that in a second. Unfortunately, it even backfired on him again later, but there's that. So the second story in this episode, well, the main story of this episode, is Jerry out of the blue hires a maid. Of course, Elaine thinks it's quite suspicious that he would hire a maid. Jerry's not really that type of person. Well, we then find out that Jerry is actually hired the maid to clean his house, and she's also his girlfriend. So Jerry is sleeping with the maid, and he's basically getting ripped on about it. Of course, is this the boyfriend side? Is this the girlfriend side? Or is this the maid side? And Jerry's saying how they have a good, business relationship and a good, romantic relationship and whatnot. But as they start growing closer to each other, the romantic side is excellent. But the business side is falling down. And, basically, people are telling Jerry that he's not paying her to clean. He's paying her for prostitution, basically. So yeah. Things go south with that. And then when she really did absolutely nothing and Jerry refused to pay her, then she broke up with him. So he broke up and fired her as well. Of course, though, that would come back to haunt him later. Kramer's storyline. Well, actually, first... Let's do Elaine's first, because Elaine's was a little distant from everybody else's. All the guys' storylines kind of intertwined a little bit with each other. Elaine's story was that she was dealing with her phone. So Kramer, first off, for some reason thought she had a fax machine, and there was these restaurant menus that he needed faxed. So he gave them Elaine's number, thinking she had a fax machine, which she doesn't. And of course, she came home to 57 voicemails, and we hear, "Ee-hoo! Ee-hoo!" And of course, in the midst of all of that, it's a voicemail from George going, "Hey, it's George," and of course, Elaine just deletes it, even bother, and then, "Ee-hoo!" But of course, Elaine got so annoyed with it that she got her phone number changed. But her phone number got changed to this new area code that was kind of new to the area, because I guess they ran out of 212 numbers, something like that, I think it was. And of course, Elaine started getting problems. She had given her number out to a couple of guys, but when they saw the area code, they were like, no thanks. Obviously because they thought it was some kind of a scam, or it could have been making them like a long distance call or whatnot. So then Elaine was not happy about not having a 212 number. Until she found out that her neighbor died. And she asked, by any chance, did she have a 212 number? So she got the number changed to her phone number. That way she had the 212 number. The problem, though, was the lady's grandson did not know yet that his grandma had died. And the parents weren't ready to tell him yet, apparently. So he kept calling Elaine, thinking that Elaine was Gammy, as he called her, and Elaine finally got sick. You call like 6-7 times a day or whatnot, and then she'd be asking, "Has your parents told you anything about your Gammy?" And then finally she started coughing and saying, "Gammy's dying now. Gammy doesn't want you to call anymore. Goodbye, Bobby. Love you. Bye," and hangs up on him. Well, the kid was not as dumb as he looked, so he dialed 911. And of course, they came in ready to, "Don't worry, Gammy, you'll make it." So, fortunately, Elaine's plans of her getting a new 212 number without Kramer's faxes backfired completely on her, unfortunately. So yeah. So that story was kind of off on its own. Kramer, meanwhile. So, this story actually originally was supposed to be in the Frogger. But then it didn't make the cut. And it actually does kind of make sense also as to why Kramer's caution tape storyline got got like very limited in the Frogger. So originally, Kramer. So in this episode, Kramer is having a long distance relationship with some woman named Madeline, and in the original story for the Frogger, Kramer was to meet her as he came out of the men's room at Monk's. And when he was taken with her, she was not into him, but eventually he successfully lured her into a relationship by marking a restricted path with his yellow caution police tape. So that was kind of the whole, point behind the caution tape storyline. But of course, it didn't make the cut. But they continued this, they basically did that storyline. We never saw Madeline, but they basically did the storyline in this episode instead. Where Kramer was saying this was going to be a long distance relationship because she was moving downtown. Which, okay, it's only like a short while, but of course downtown's like a big difference from just right outside the city for them. So Kramer was having like a long distance relationship. They were talking on the phone, watching TV together. They were like playing cards together over the phone. But then all of a sudden Kramer just couldn't take it anymore. So he went downtown, but basically told Madeline she has to move back or they're through. Easy decision. She dumped Kramer. So then Kramer was lost downtown, and he called Jerry for him to come find him. So Jerry gets in the car and heads down. Again, this is right after he had broken up with Cindy, his maid. Well, when he's on his way down, first he runs into his maid's boss, who basically tells him to pay up or else, basically. And while he's driving down, he happens to see Cindy walking down the street wearing like a very suggestive looking red outfit and a black jacket. And then Jerry's like begging her to give her to take the money and she won't take it, but then I guess police must have been saying it for prostitution, so that blew up in smoke as well. So Kramer never picked up Jerry never picked up Kramer. But then Kramer was downtown, he got picked up by the maid's boss, basically asking if he ever, knew how to, basically, he was implying that Kramer knew how to clean or whatnot. So I don't know what the whole point of that was. But, of course, he got picked up. And that's... I guess he got home. I don't know. But, and then to wrap up George's story. So, one time, before Jerry and his maid broke up, she said that... Because George was upset because they got him a shirt that said Coco on it and a 00. That was 00, but it was like, ooh, like, for Coco the monkey. So, so then he found out the maid knew someone in her business named Coco Higgins. So, he met this Coco Higgins and brought her into Kruger's meeting and gave her, like, some special title. And Kruger was first like, you're just hiring people now? He's like, yeah. He's like, okay, whatever, because Krugers just don't care about anything. So, of course, she introduced herself as Coco Higgins, and then Kruger was like, we can't have two Cocos. So I guess George was back to being George again, which George rather have George rather than Coco. But then they start having their meeting. And then Coco actually tries tells some story about her Gammy. We hear Gammy again after we heard Gammy with Elaine and Bobby. But of course, George says the line very coldly of, nobody cares about your Gammy or something like that. And then basically, something about the name Gammy, and then, Kruger don't like the name Gammy. And George is like, oh no. And then the episode ends with everybody going, Gammy, Gammy, Gammy. So George went from wanting T-Bone, not getting T-Bone, getting Coco. Coco went away, and now he ends with Gammy. And of course, he stands up and goes, Gammy's getting upset! Instead of George getting upset, it's Gammy's getting upset! And that's how we went off the air. So Kramer gets dumped, Jerry gets dumped, Elaine is basically almost taken away because they think she's dying because she was trying to get rid of a kid who kept calling her one of his Gammy. And George gets Gammy. So not a bad episode though. I didn't mind it. I mean, I definitely liked it a little more than some of the other episodes we've gotten in season 9, but I still wouldn't put up there as quite one of my favorites. Maybe like right in the middle there or something like that. But yeah, that's that episode. Solid episode, I thought. couple trivia facts. Jerry's line of whenever he tells Kramer to stay alive, no matter what occurs, I will find you, is from the film The Last of the Mohicans in 1992, which of course a couple times, whenever I'm waiting to be picked up, I'll call my mom and she's like, "Don't worry, Mike, I will find you." Just to quote that whole scene as well. But of course, unfortunately, Jerry never found Kramer because, well, he got mistaken for prostitution. Let me see here. The line where Cindy was telling George how one of the girls at the maid service is named Coco, and that girl's alright, is actually a nod back to in the dealership episode when Putty and Jerry discuss Coco, the sign language chimp, and Putty says that chimp's alright, so that's kind of like a throwback to that. I already mentioned the original storyline for Madeline from the Frogger episode. Kramer is asked if he knows how to use a mop wringer. In the movie UHF, a then little-known Michael Richards played Stanley Spadowski, a janitor who has a close attachment to a very special mop. So it's kind of a throwback to that as well. The working title for this episode originally was not The Maid, but it was the long distance relationship. Let me see here. And yeah, that's basically it. So like I said, it was the last episode of the series where the four of them had different storylines. Like that was like it was like a regular episode. Like the Puerto Rican Day Parade was kind of like something like the Chinese restaurant, or like the movie where like everybody was at that one location, but there's this chaos in that one location. Pretty much, it was just them trying to do something different with the last actual episode before the finale. And then, of course, we got the clip show, and then the finale. So, I'll see you guys next time in the Puerto Rican Day Parade episode. So, once again, guys, what were your thoughts on the Maid episode? Make sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section below, and be sure, as always, to slap a like on the video, and subscribe for more content on my channel, and follow me on Twitter as well, at DemandAirBoy93. And until then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll catch you all later. Have a great rest of your night. Peace out, everybody.